Hello everyone, this is Parimal. I would be teaching you C Sharp for the current semester. Uh, so let's see what we have in store. Okay, so that's the syllabus for you, C Sharp.net, course code and credits and all that, course learning objectives to present the basic building blocks of C Sharp and .NET platform to create understanding about object-oriented programming, to introduce exception handling, to appreciate the use of .NET. So the requisites, I'm sure most of you have done at least one of this object-oriented programming, either in the form of C Sharp, C++ or Java or Python. So object-oriented programming must not be something very new to you. So what do we have in .NET? So initially, to begin with, the philosophy of .NET, there is an introduction, then the building block of the .NET platform, then base class libraries, then overview of the binaries. Then we have the CIL, .NET metadata manifest. Then we have the CTS, CLS, and CLR. Of course, we'll go through this more in detail. And we have namespaces, right? Namespaces also is something which you are very familiar with. Next comes building C# application. So this unit, here we go through how applications, as to how we run applications using the command line and not through any IDE as such. So here you can see that here we have CSC, that's the C# compiler. So you will see about response files, how we generate bug reports, just like the usual bugs which we see in IDE, right? Here we'll see how we generate them using a command line, like in a console application. When we run a program using a simple console application, how our bugs generate. Then we have the compiler options. Then we have the debugger, preprocessor, and we study a little bit. We want some information about the OS, the version, the drives in our machine. So that is where you study the environment class. So C# language fundamentals. So this is where you get really into some kind of programming, right? So the first two units were mostly about the architecture, the basics, and how you use the command line. Here, the third unit, what we'll be doing is we'll go through the syntax of C#. So here you can see the anatomy of a C# class. So we'll go through some few examples. It's quite unfortunate that this programming subject does not have some kind of a lab associated with it. But nevertheless, as much as possible, let's keep the course interesting by working out some problems. That way, I think it's going to help you guys in your placements as well, right? Then here, how you create objects and constructors, composition of a C# application, then default assignment, C# members, initialization syntax, and all that, value and reference types, then system.object, boxing, unboxing, and defining program constants, C# iteration constructs, and that's pretty simple. Control flow constructs, simple again. Operators, defining custom class methods, static methods, method parameter modifier, nothing. Everything seems to be pretty simple. Then Unit 4, we deal with object-oriented programming with C#. Here we see one second. Okay. Okay. So yeah, here next we see is object-oriented programming with C#. Encapsulation, then inheritance, okay, and polymorphism. Polymorphism, we have compile time, runtime, right? Overloading, overriding. I'm sure you guys remember that. Then next comes exceptions and object lifetime. So what do we have? Errors, bugs, and exception. So errors. So I think in Java, I think you must have had that try catch, right? So you have something very similar out here. Errors, the errors which you see, and exception handling, try catch. You can have multiple catch blocks. Then throwing a generic exception, right? And I think we've had this in Java. Then CLR system level, we'll go through all this, and then custom application level, handling multiple exception, and the finally block. Then the last thing in Unit 5, the CIL of new, understanding object generation, the basics of garbage collection, right? Garbage collection. Again, I think this is already something which you must have already been familiar with. Building a finalizable object, disposable. You'll see all this. It's too early to let's not get deep into it, okay, at the moment. So these are the textbooks. Andrew Trolson. I have the soft copy. I'll share it with you guys. And that's something which we don't use too much. And that's a reference book, the complete reference. Okay. So these are the course outcomes. Summarize basic concepts of C#, design applications using object-oriented concepts, illustrate customer exceptions handling in robust applications, understanding of object life cycle, and analyze the problem in hand and design an application using C#.NET. So these are the program outcomes of the course: engineering knowledge, design, development of solutions, modern tool usage, lifelong learning. So this is how the split up is. So average of best to 25, then the quiz and class participation. Okay. Okay. So now let's quickly go through some basic introduction of .NET. So now let's start this from the very beginning, and that's the book for you, Andrew Trolson. So the very first unit, that's the philosophy of .NET. So here we have the objectives, understanding the previous state of affairs. So that is what we have in the Unit 1, the .NET solution, building blocks of .NET platform, CLR, CTS, and CLS. And finally, .NET namespaces. Right. Understanding the previous state of affairs. So to begin with, why did .NET come into existence? There must be a reason for that, right? So what we first had C to start off with. C. So what are the good things about C? The good things, I would imagine, not very difficult to learn, except few things. Okay, anybody can guess when you guys were in your first years, which was the most toughest part of the C language? Of course, now at this point of time, you must be pretty comfortable with C and most other languages. But then, for a beginner, it's a pretty complex language. So, which are the parts that makes it complex? First of all, you have to do manual memory management. Correct? You have to allocate, deallocate memory. Secondly, you have a ugly pointer arithmetic, and sometimes you have ugly syntactic constructs, like you have syntax like precedence and all those things, right? And what else? So yeah, and the main thing, it is not object oriented. So so when you compare, when you combine thousands of global functions and data types defined by API to a difficult language like C, bugs will increase exponentially. Next, we come across is C++. So the huge benefit which C++ provides is, as we all rightly guessed, is object-oriented programming. Correct. But what's the downside? The downside is we still have to deal with pointer arithmetic. And moreover, we still have memory management. We fail to deallocate memory, or we will fail to free memory, or then everything accumulates, and our program could get crippled, or as may well be in for a crash. Correct. So that was about C program. So next comes VB, right? So what was VB life as a VB programmer? So the positives about VB was it could you must have all known VB was very famous for GUI based applications. It had a huge code library and much simpler. Data access logic was pretty simple, but it had its own disadvantages. So what were they? It was not object oriented. So then so that's why we came to VB.NET. And then but it was, in fact, it was object aware. So I mean, this is the early days, or these are the early days of VB, wherein it was not possible to establish is a relationship, right? That is, the inheritance was not possible. I mean, in the earlier versions of VB. So that is what this textbook, since we are referring to this particular textbook, that's what it says. Then it was not able to support multi-threaded application, but again, VB also has come a long way, and multi-threaded applications are possible in VB as well. And another thing is there was no support for parameterized class construction. So that was about VB. Next, so about Java. So what are the good things about Java? So we all know that Java is platform independent, right? So, but what is the problem? I mean, so what are the problems that we face? So the actually Java is not it's slow as compared to most other programming language, and it's got limited ability to access non-Java APIs, right? Though a little bit is possible. Like I think inline, I think there are some languages, probably Python. I'm not sure. So there is a little support for cross-language integration. Okay. Next was as a COM programmer. So COM again using okay. The beauty of COM was that it could be accessed in a language independent manner. So Uh, C++ programmers can build COM classes that can be used by VB6, right? Delphi programmers can use COM classes built using C, and so forth. So, however, COM's language independence is somewhat limited, sorry. It was not possible to derive a new COM class using an existing COM class, right? As COM it didn't have support for classical inheritance. So, and moreover, COM had its own problems of DLL hell. So DLL hell wherein which multiple versions of the same assembly cannot be registered. So, okay, so that's about VB parameterized constructor, where it's possible now. You can see that the constructor has parameters. Earlier, the book says that it was not possible. Then inheritance in VB, you can see that public class Y inherits X. Okay, so that's about the good part. Okay. So then lastly, there was life as a Windows DNA programmer. The popularity of, in this case, the popularity of web applications was ever expanding. But sadly, what happened was building a web application using COM-based Windows DNA was pretty complex. This was because Windows DNA required use of numerous languages like ASP, HTML, XML, JavaScript, VB script, active database object, and so on. But most of these technologies are completely unrelated from a syntactic point of view. Okay. So then we came across .NET. .NET was so .NET solution. What did it do? So first of all, there was full interoperability with existing Win32 code. So existing COM binaries, they could interoperate with newer .NET binaries. So that was the problem, right? DLL hell was the older binaries and the newer binaries could not coexist in the system registry at the same time. Then so there was this complete and total language integration. So .NET, what else? It supports cross-language inheritance, then exception handling, and cross-language debugging. And you will see more about the runtime engine. There's a common runtime engine which can be shared by all .NET aware languages. Okay, so .NET it could be written in C# or VB. So, but the underlying runtime engine is the same. Okay. Then next we have a base class library. Okay, so it protects the programmer from the complexity of API calls, and offers a consistent object model used by, again, all .NET aware languages. Then lastly, we have a truly simplified deployment model. So we don't need to register a binary unit into the system registry. So allows multiple versions of the same of different versions of a DLL being coexisting. Okay, so what other features does C# have to offer? So no pointer required. So C# programs typically have no need for direct pointer manipulation. Correct. Then we have automatic memory management through garbage collection. Given this, C# does not support a delete keyword. You must remember that I think we did have this delete in C++, right? And formal syntactic constructs for enumerations, structures, and class properties. So it has abilities like C++ to overload without any much of a problem. So full support for interface-based programming techniques. So you've learned about interfaces, right? In Java. So you can have your own interface, and then the deriving class wherein it's just a contract. The deriving class just implements the interface, the methods which are in the interface. Then there is support for aspect-based programming techniques. So aspect-based as in how do we make a particular application more modular? So we can take a look at an example a little later as to what aspect-based programming means. Okay. So I think that's for today. So let's in this particular Google Meet. So